You're welcome back to Joy News Prime. I'm Araba Kumsin, but joining me now is Emmanuel Riafe. He's here with details on business in the country. Emmanuel, it's a Republic Day. We're 56 years today. Yes. It's been 56 years since we attained the status of a republic. There's a lot to celebrate. So what are the economists saying?
Well, I share the same view as the economist who is going to speak very soon. He's saying that there's little to show of a Republican country or of a Republican status. You know, we attained our independence, right? 3 years after that, we gained a Republican status, which means, or which meant that we totally cut our umbilical cord from our colonial master. So we don't have anything to do with them.
It doesn't appear we've totally cut off our umbilical cord.
That is it. 56 years away, we are still going to them to borrow, virtually borrow, depending on them for our budgetary support and other things. Industries have collapsed. So many things are going bad. And in the same way, this economist is just painting the same picture, which is very, very bad.
Take it up.
Thank you. Now, thank you very much for being with me on business. 3 years after independence, on the 1st of July 1960, Ghana became totally independent of the colonial master Britain. Now, total independence also meant not relying on any other country for assistance to meet its budgetary needs. But has Ghana's economy been really independent till now? Economist John Gachi shared his thoughts on the economy 56 years after achieving a republican status.
Over a long period of time, our manufacturing base virtually collapsed. Our industries actually collapsed over time. We have to be depending so much on foreign goods and in some cases services. Introduction of oil in the revenues does not actually change that particular position. When we actually had the republic settled, we could not finish up the work of cutting our ties in terms of over-reliance on the industries of the West. We didn't enhance, some of the industries that were put up during those early periods. Along the line, some of them were not functioning. Some of them have to be privatized. And the status of those industries before they were privatized were so bad that they could not even be brought back to operation by the new private owners. So that has been the situation. So, and then we have to go to the IMF, depend on the World Bank for assistance here and there, depending on our colonial masters from time to time. Even when we came to democracy, we have to depend on the West for support for our democratic process. In terms of security, we have to depend on them. Even though we cut our links, but in reality, we are depending on the industries of the West in order to survive within the new framework of economic activities of the country. That is the reason why we cannot say that because we have Republican status, we actually cut links with the West.
Now, Deputy Minister of Finance, Mona Quartey, has once again challenged claims that the economy will be worse this year in terms of growth. The latest response follows a recent report by auditing firm KPMG indicating many chief finance officers in the country expect the economy this year to be worse off than the previous year. In an interview with Joy Business, Mona Quartey suggested all variables point to a much better economy this year.
In the first quarter of this year, we've already seen an improvement in our growth rate of GDP. According to Ghana Statistical Services, 4.9%, which is an improvement from last year. So things are picking up. In fact, in terms of macroeconomy, we are fairly stabilized. The only situation that needs to still come under control is our inflation rate. And that, as we all know, we took the subsidies off fuel and also from the utilities, so that would have an impact. We've also seen that in terms of food, it's mainly vegetables that has continued to be expensive because they are imported. So the main factor for increasing inflation has been non-food items, which is the fuel because the subsidy is gone and the utilities because, again, the tariffs have gone up. But otherwise, all other indicators are showing an improvement in the economy. So I think that Ghana is definitely ready for a a great growth from now. The cedi has stabilized for a very long period. In our history, we've always seen so much gyration, but in the last 12 months or so, we've seen the cedi stabilize quite nicely, especially to the dollar. With the Brexit situation, what we saw just pre-Brexit was the sterling dropping, and that didn't hurt us. That did not factor into making the cedi depreciate. If the sterling drops, that strengthens the dollar. And once the dollar is strengthened, yes, you see a little movement. But then the cedi has not even hit 4 cedis to 1. It is still below that. It's moved maybe from 3.7 something to about 3.8. And I know that some forex bureaus may be quoting 3.9. But forex bureaus are always ahead of the interbank rate anyway. But the important thing is that we've seen this range between 3.65 to 3.8 stay there for a very long period, and I think that we should be proud of ourselves for being able to maintain that stabilized currency rate.
Businesses will now have to struggle more in securing credit from financial institutions. This is because some microfinance and savings and loans companies have also indicated they're cutting lending to businesses. The action follows a similar move by commercial banks because of the inability of firms to pay back loans on time. CDH Savings and Loans is the latest institution to go this way. Group Chief Executive of CDH Holdings, Emmanuel Edu Sarkodie, tells Joy Business they have been forced to take this action because of the current challenges.
People are less able to pay their loans as they should, and obviously the thing to do is to cut back on how much loans you do and do a bit more treasury operations, and hope that when things begin to turn, then you can advance a bit more money. Because, I mean, most businesses are having a hard time. The power situation didn't really affect business. It was palpable. You could feel it, whether from the steel companies or from even people in small-scale manufacturing. They all felt it, and so you have to really bear with them, restructure some loans, ensure that you put in measures so the loan doesn't go bad. Regulation is just as tight as with the banks, and so you really have to be measured in what you're doing, and your risk mitigation measures must be very high in times like this. Otherwise, you could run into some difficult times if you are overexposed to certain sectors of the economy. There are several ways of getting revenue from savings and loans. I indicated that we do a lot more treasury operations now. Now, you don't necessarily have to, you can lend, but you must lend with a lot of prudence on your side. In the days when the economy is doing well, anybody can walk in with very little experience. If he has a year or two experience, you can perhaps look at him and say, well, even though collateral is not adequate, you will lend. But these days, you want to make sure that the procedures are followed to the letter, because the chances of default is high.
Now, businesses have been urged to shift focus to unknown entities in the execution of corporate social responsibility projects. The Access Women Network made the call when the members presented renovated classroom blocks and items to the school for the deaf at Ashaiman in Tema as part of the week-long activities. Sarah Josu was there and has the rest of the story.
The Access Women Network comprises female employees in Access Bank, created to promote collaborative support among women in the bank whilst impacting on society. The presentation to the Tete Oklu State School for the Deaf in Ashaiman, Tema, is part of the group's mission to promote a healthy learning environment, especially for the physically challenged. The Vice President of the network and Head of Human Resources, Anne Obin Abebio, impressed on companies the need to identify and support such lesser-known institutions.
As part of our corporate social responsibility, we also have what we call employee volunteering program. And what we do is every member of staff in Access Bank is expected to give of themselves into their community. So this is part of our EVP, which also is a pillar of one of our CSR as a bank. We're all Ghanaians, and it's very easy to sit back and say what is not right or what the state is not doing right, okay? But I think if each and every one of us contributes to the community in our own little way, you know, it can go a long way, because we are all responsible for the country in which we belong to. And that really is my message out to any corporate institution, that we should all look for. Because most of the time when we're looking to support institutions, we look for the obvious, okay, where everybody goes to. When I came here, the first thing that struck me is these children live in an environment of silence. So they don't even have a voice to speak, you know. So we should look for lots of other interventions and try and contribute a little bit, because it goes a long way.
Apart from engaging the pupils of the school in several activities prior to the presentation, members of the Access Women Network also underwent a training in sign language to offer better services to their physically challenged customers. For Joy Business, Sarah Josu.
And that's all for Business in the News. Thank you very much for your attention, and keep watching. More news coming up.